I think Tim is doing that. Thanks, Bruce. All right, we're going to continue. And as I'm looking around on the screen, let's see. Let's see everybody here. So greetings, everybody. You're here at School for A Course in Miracles, where we're learning that life is in the mind and only in the mind. First step, and then we're learning how to change our minds through the help, assistance, love, guidance, benefit of another teacher. That other teacher being within our right mind, and that other teacher is the Holy Spirit, or if you prefer to think of it as Jesus, who gave form to the Holy Spirit for a moment in time. And so we're learning how to change our minds, and the goal of that changing our minds is to see the real world, which is the effect of seeing with the mind, seeing with the help of the Holy Spirit, and seeing what the Course calls with vision rather than through the eyes of the body. So lesson 76, I'm under no laws but God's, is quite uncompromising, unequivocal, that all the laws that we have made up, and that's what we're going to look at first off here. Oh dear, if you'll excuse me a minute, I must have my pointer. I'll be right back.
We had a lot of discussion yesterday in the meeting about routines and how our whole life is defined by routines. And certainly looking at Lynn's Wheel of Misfortune, we can see we have a routine with all of those, that carnival effect on the whole, on that whole chart. We have routines with entertainment, we have routines with our health, we have routines with the way we eat, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the other ways of putting, I am under no laws but God's, I am under no routines but God's, really, ultimately. Because our whole identity is defined by our routines. They're all special love relationships. And if I don't get what I want, look out. So anyway, sorry.
Now our routines have all been broken up, and we're having to relook at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it's well, let's go around the wheel first. Is there anybody here that hasn't been around the wheel? All right. So we have some newcomers to the wheel, and very good. And Karen's got her hand up, and Barnes, I don't know if he's seen the Wheel of Misfortune, as we call it.
He's been in it, though. He's been in it.
Yeah, all right. Well, we've all been in it, that's for sure. In fact, this is where we think we live. You know, we think this is us, you know, the self-concept that we've made, and we really believe we are this self-concept, which, given it believes it's separated and it's made itself, it also believes it is its own source. And so it believes that what is in its world around it can affect it. It can support its belief that it's helpless, that it can't heal, that it can't bless, that it can't see another world. It believes it's stuck here and is, quote, a helpless victim. So around the world, we have the circle outside, we have time, and we have really strict rules about time. In fact, every one of these things around the circle, we have rules about. And we really believe if we don't follow those rules, that we're either going to be punished or it's all going to fall apart. In another way of thinking, it's called superstition. If I don't do this, all hell's going to break loose. You know, if I don't take my vitamins, you know, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be punished. I'm going to be sick and possibly die. And you know, if I don't, here's politics, you know, if I don't get the right person elected, you know, it's going to be trouble for all of us, you know. I mean, who doesn't believe that these days? Shelter, you know, all kinds of rules about how you get shelter, find shelter, keep shelter. And we'll skip down here. Let's see, transportation. Here are others. You know, all the other special relationships in our life, but these are all special relationships, meaning they're substitutes for the love of God. Well, this lesson, I'm under no laws but God's, is saying the only power you have is the power of God's Son. And that's where all your strength abides. It doesn't abide anywhere in this circle that seems to surround us and keep us hopelessly preoccupied day in and day out with trying to follow the laws of each thing. Down here, we've got germs and viruses. And now, you know, we're going through a whole, and I'm certainly not saying don't do any of these things. The thing that we have to understand is these are not salvation. They might help the body be better. They might help us not get the virus, whatever, but it has nothing to do with salvation. But unfortunately, we spend all of our time trying to manage all of this, and we barely give a nod to the Holy Spirit and say, you know, I see all of this and I believe it. And help me, you know, help me to see this differently. Instead of justifying it, we could look at it and say, you know, I know it's insane. I know this is not where I live. I do not live here, and I do not live in a body. And help me to become consistent in my desire for the real world. Help me become more consistent in wanting the source of my joy. And, you know, not spend every waking hour forgetting that the true source is God, is love, and that's really what we want. So the world that we're seeing in the world, we call it the world of misfortune, because its purpose, which is the ego's purpose, is to keep us preoccupied and away from the mind, not even knowing that we have a mind, not even aware that we can choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego for our teacher. And in doing that more and more consistently, what's on the outer ring that we've imagined to be our help in our salvation begins to fade. It begins to, as we lose interest in it, so to speak, and our attention goes more to the Holy Spirit and to remembering that we have a guide with us and that we don't go through our day alone. We're with either Jesus or the Holy Spirit or a loving presence, that we go through our day, even as we attend to some of these things in the outer circle of misfortune, we no longer believe that these things can harm and hurt us. They're there, but they don't have a power over us, including the virus. And I'm not talking about not getting the virus. I'm talking about if I get the virus, I know that that isn't going to change, that my salvation is with God and the Holy Spirit. Is that making sense to everybody? So in times like this, we're almost thrown back on the question, where is my safety? Really, where is my safety? Well, you know, there are a few of us here that are pushing 80. Not many, but where's David? David, where are you? Did you just, oh, there you are. David, how old are you?
He's on mute. It's a good thing. We don't want to know how old David is.
We do. Can you unmute yourself, David? I guess not. He's talking, but we're not hearing him. So anyway, I think David is 93, but I may be a little bit off there. So, you know, for some of us, we may have different feelings about, well, you know, I could check out anytime and I would be fine, you know. I mean, yeah, there'll probably be some fear involved there, but I also know that that's not what I am, you know, and that's not what you are, and that's what none of us are. So what Jesus is trying to get us to do is learn how to be truly helpful, learn how to heal. Healing is our function here in the world. So you all know we've been saying the prayer when we start classes recently, and I'm going to say it again because personally I can't say it enough. And I think it's good to remember why we are here. And the more we spend time focused on that, whatever we're called to do, I mean, when we're ready and willing to offer the miracle, when we are ready to heal and make that the focus of our lives, we'll have plenty of work to do. Trust me, we will all be very, very busy. Jesus, when Jesus knows, you know, he's got somebody working for him, he's right on board with it, you know. So here's the prayer, and it is, if you don't know, and probably that you're there ahead of me, it is on page 28. You can do much on behalf of your own healing. In other words, healing your belief that this entire circle of misfortune that we think is our salvation, we can do much on behalf of our healing and the healing of others if we remember this. In any situation that is calling for help. So, plenty of those situations. Remember this. Think of it this way. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes. Wherever I am now is where he wishes me to be. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. So this is the course's system, if you will, of recovering our innocence. We recover our innocence by giving innocence to our brother, because we already have innocence. It's not something that has got to be acquired. It is something that has to be remembered. And the only way we remember what we've already got is to give it to our brother. So this is why salvation, true salvation, we're talking now, not all this here, not time, politics, money, all of this that we need to control to protect ourselves and to stay away from our real function. Our real function is healing, forgiveness. That's our real function. And so it is in giving it that we remember that we are not separate from our brother, that our minds are joined. So if I want to see sinlessness, that is my desire, it will be given. And I will begin to see the evidence. Jesus says that miracles are the evidence that you're learning under the right teacher. Miracles are the evidence that the Holy Spirit is working through us, but I have to give the willingness. I have to bring the desire to see sinlessness in my brother. This is what I want to see. And so the result, of course, of the Holy Spirit's teaching is joy. So, how we know we're beginning to wake up and see a different world is we desire to see sinlessness in our brothers. And we discover that it brings us joy. Whoa, the joy we've been looking for is really right here. So there's a section I know I read to some of you very recently, but I'm saying things over and over again these days, but it never hurts, This is from The Light You Bring. The Light You Bring. It's on page 526. And it's The Justice of God, chapter 25. And it's the first paragraph. Minds that are joined and recognize that they are. Now there it is. If I want to see my brother sinless, I don't do it. I have the wish, the desire to see him differently, from a different perspective. And as the Holy Spirit teaches me that, and I recognize that it's true because I see my brother differently. I see him and it gives me joy. Well, now I know that our minds are joined. Before that, it's just theory. I mean, we believe it, we hear it, we are told that, and we give belief to that, but now we need the experience of it. And this is how we get the experience of the power of our decision for the Holy Spirit and the power of the mind to reach from my mind to my brother's mind and shine back at me. Now we're seeing how powerful the mind is. So, minds that are joined and recognize that they are. Guess what? They can feel no guilt. Why? Who could attack? With what would he attack? It would simply make no sense if I learned that the minds are joined. Now I'm no longer helpless. I'm really learning the power of my mind, and the helplessness is not even there. So they feel no guilt. Oh, and guess what? They cannot attack. So another evidence of the change of mind that's occurring under the teaching of the Holy Spirit and in my relationships with everyone and everything, essentially, but primarily with the brothers that I see and I'm with every day in, day out. The desire to attack is no longer there. We lose the desire to attack. If you skip over to the state of sinlessness, paragraph 1, you'll see it. The state of sinlessness is merely this: the whole desire to attack is gone. And so there is no reason to perceive the Son of God as other than he is. In other words, we don't change our brother through twisting what is simply there. The ego does that. The ego twists and turns to justify its attack. But through realizing there is no guilt and that minds are joined and we cannot attack, we rejoice that this is so. Seeing our safety is in this happy fact. So in terms of looking for where our safety lies, it doesn't lie here in this circle with, trying to manage all of this and following the laws of each of these things. Our safety is not there. Our safety is in the mind that is choosing this happy fact. Sentence 3, their joy is in the innocence they see. Now, the ego loves to find sin. So, surely we don't find joy under the ego's rule, because it must attack. If I believe I'm a body, I must attack to protect it and defend it, because it is weakness that believes that seeing through the body's eyes is actually seeing, and hearing through the body's ears is actually hearing. The body does nothing, but it can be used by the Holy Spirit to teach us this thing that we just talked about, which is, how do I want to see my brother? All right. Let's see. Their joy is in the innocence they see, and thus they seek for it. So we seek for it because we really want to feel joyful. I mean, who isn't sick of feeling miserable all the time? But this is the way to begin to understand that joy is healing is a collaborative venture. I need my brother. We need two to learn that there's only one. We need two to learn that minds are joined. We need two to learn that reality is shared. Joy, peace. They're there in the reality of the real world. We're talking real world here. That is the real world. It's the world that exists in the mind that is choosing healing.
One of the things that Jesus is trying to get us to seek for innocence, but first we have to look at how much we're not doing that. And it's a very active plan to seek for grievances instead, to seek for justification, to point the finger at somebody. I am under no laws but God's is right in the middle of this huge set of lessons on grievances. And he's real emphatic that we're holding grievances and we're looking for grievances. And that's what's keeping us from this experience of joy right now. It's not the virus. It's not our routines. It's not somebody taking away our routines that's robbing us of joy. It's that we're holding all those routines are simply setups for us to have grievances. That's what we're not admitting. Everything on that wheel of misfortune is a setup for me to hold a grievance against somebody or something because they're getting in the way of my grievance or in the way of my routine. We're not conscious of that. And to the degree that we start looking at how much all our routines are setting us up to find a grievance, that's what's robbing us of our joy. So we're not looking for innocence here at all. We're looking for guilt big time. We're looking to hold a grievance. And we have to sort of admit that and look at how often we do that on all those things of the wheel of misfortune. For example, Ken Wapnick once said, you know, he was a great course teacher. He wrote books about it. He said his job was not to be a great course teacher and write books about it. Those were his routines. His job was to sit in his office, and when somebody came in and interrupted one of those routines, because there was always stuff happening, to see that person and that interruption not as a grievance, but that it was the interruptions in doing his routines that were his opportunity to see Jesus in that person and in himself. Same way it is for us. All those things on the wheel of misfortune are setups to find a grievance so I don't have joy. And then on top of that, don't ever admit that's what I'm doing. I mean, that's huge. And that's everything.
Yeah, yesterday, the lesson, depending on whether you did the leap year thing or not, but the lesson that we did yesterday was lesson 75. The light has come. Well, what is the light but this joy that we experience when we begin to learn that minds are joined, and you know that we have the power to actually see our brother sinless if we ask for it. It's given, you know, but we have to flip the switch. So yesterday was almost like New Year's. The light has come, and you know, he talks, you are healed. The light has come and you are healed, and you can heal. Because miracles are only seen in light. Miracles are not seen in darkness. They are not seen by the ego. The ego does not see miracles. But by the light that we bring with us, as we just read, we are bringing the light. And it's not that the light isn't always there. The light is always there. We just don't see it because we're so busy with all of this. And we're really kind of absent-minded when we're with a brother. Like, there's our big opportunity. How am I seeing my brother? But, you know, we miss those opportunities to gladden ourselves. I wanted to read a little more from this, the light you bring section. It's sentence 5 on still paragraph 1. Everyone seeks for what will bring him joy as he defines it. It is not the aim as such that varies, yet it is the way in which the aim is seen that makes the choice. Who are we seeing with? That's the real question. Do we think that the Holy Spirit is going to bring us joy, or do we think that the ego is going to bring us joy? And what we see is a reflection of what we've chosen. So if I'm not experiencing joy, it's because of the way I am looking, not because of who I'm looking at. Do I want a teacher that is going to bring me the lesson that miracles are joined, and we are one Son of God, over and over and over until we get this, that there is only one Son of God. And we are that. Perception's basic law could thus be said: you will rejoice at what you see because you see it to rejoice. So if I am seeing suffering, and that's how I'm interpreting what's going on, I'm seeing suffering and pain, it is because I rejoice to see that. I rejoice at differences. I rejoice at separation because I believe that that's pleasure. So we can be very, very confused about where pleasure is and where happiness is. And I think to understand that what we are seeing is we're seeing it because we want to see it. If we want to see the real world, we have to change the way we're seeing. The entire Course in Miracles is about changing the way we see.
All this is about purpose. It was what Dave Van Dyke was talking about yesterday. The body's suffering is a mask the mind holds up to hide what really suffers. It's a mask. Our physical suffering is a mask to hide what really suffers, which means this internal place called the mind where I'm hanging on to believe I'm a body, not just a body that can suffer. I see bodies that suffer because I don't want to see the real source of the suffering, which is I've thrown Jesus out the window, I've separated, whatever words you want to use. It's always that inner choice that's causing the suffering, rather than let go of that silly choice that I could be separate from Jesus in this moment. I project it out onto all these routines on the Wheel of Misfortune, and I'm waiting for you just to step up and mess my routine up. And then it's your fault, Genie. Look what you did. You messed up my Wheel of Misfortune. But I mean, it's always, that's the purpose. The body's suffering is a mask to hide from us, not anybody else, to hide from us what the real source of suffering is, which is totally made up. Totally made up. But until we get back to that awareness, we're going to hang on to that suffering. We're going to believe we have to suffer, but then we're going to point the finger at all these things on the Wheel of Misfortune and say, the suffering's your fault, not mine. That's the purpose. It hides from me what the real source of suffering is.
Yeah, there's a clue. And I think this gets more and more clear as we go along with the Course. We become more aware when we're conflicted or we're feeling fear. And that's always a clue that I have acted lovelessly toward one of my brothers. That, and in so doing, I make myself fearful. You know, the fear is coming from acting other than my source. I mean, if we want to know God's will, then, you know, he's showing us how to get back to God's will, which is to extend love through seeing innocence in my brother. And I will not feel fearful if I do that. But the moment I'm feeling some fear, it's because I have had a loveless thought. I've condemned my brother in some way. And so to be aware of that and to know the truth that spirit is in a state of grace forever. We can't be anywhere other than in spirit and in a state of grace. And as he says, the cure for the fear is perfect love. That's the cure. You can't fix the fear. You can't, try to change something that you totally believe in. But we can shift to the Holy Spirit as our teacher. And we can realize that through another teacher, that what we're seeing has not occurred. It literally will disappear. It will disappear from our field if we're willing to do that. And I had a situation actually yesterday, and I felt really uncomfortable and agitated, and I'm like, what is this? At least I was willing to stop and notice that there was, something here. And
it wasn't me this time.
Here it was, yeah. And it takes us admitting that we are the source of the fear. I do this to myself. And I can choose a different teacher and learn that nothing happened right then and there. I can do it right then and there. Now, and we all can right then and there, but we have to be aware when we have acted lovelessly to a brother. Here, I'll read you what the Course says. This is on page 30. In your text. Paragraph 7, the first corrective step in undoing error is to know first that the conflict is an expression of fear. Say to yourself that you somehow have chosen not to love, withholding love, chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. Then the whole process of correction becomes nothing more than a series of pragmatic steps. Here we go, there's going to be the steps of forgiveness, in a larger process of accepting the atonement as the remedy. These steps may be summarized this way. Know first, this is fear. This is what fear feels like. I said God's love wasn't enough for me here. And so I withheld love from my brother. I withheld love from myself. Fear has arisen from a lack of love. The only remedy for a lack of love is perfect love. Perfect love is the atonement. Perfect love is meaning perfect, and nothing has to be done to earn it. It's already there, and it's perfect because everybody has it already. There's no some have it and some don't. So perfect love is the atonement, meaning nothing happened. What I thought occurred has not occurred. It is the only way to undo the fear. If we make it real, and we try to fix it, it cannot be, as he says, you cannot master fear. You can only see that there is no fear. And the atonement is the way to do that. I have emphasized that the miracle, or the expression of the atonement, is always a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. The worthy to the worthy. We're talking the golden rule here, right? The only rule necessary for appropriate behavior is that I look from my holiness and I see my brother's holiness. Now we're equal. Now we're the same. Now we're both safe in the love of God. And now my behavior toward my brother will be appropriate. Yeah, Gigi.
You're on mute, Gigi.
Oh.
There you go.
What was the last dissertation? What page was that on? The
Page Page 30.
Oh,
Page 30 in the text.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
One of so I mean, we don't consciously walk around thinking I'm afraid now because I threw love out the window. Fear arises from lack of love, meaning I'm choosing to believe I don't have love anymore. I threw it out the window and now I'm scared to death. Well, of course we are, if that's true. But we're not afraid. We're not aware of any of that. But I'm certainly aware I'm afraid of my routines being rocked on that wheel of misfortune. I've taken that inner fear that I'm feeling because I threw love away. I don't want to admit I did something that silly. And now I have to project that fear onto some other source. And that's what all those routines that are being challenged are all about. Our routines are being challenged on a global scale. Our fear level about us losing our routines of being able to go places and being able to work and being able to take care of our families and having a roof over our head. I mean, they're all coming to the surface like like rabbits copulating. I mean, it's like routine hell is happening on a global scale. Well, but those reasons aren't why we're afraid. We're just afraid because we pushed Jesus out of our awareness and now we're scared to death. And the silliness of that in any given moment is Jesus didn't go anywhere. As much as we try to push him away, we can't throw love away. And now I'm running around insisting my routines are being ripped away from me, and that's why I'm afraid. My whole sense of self, my personhood is being ripped away. What I do in any given moment. So we're not conscious of throwing love away. We're not conscious. That's why we're afraid. But that's what Jesus is trying to point out here. Get to the root of the real problem. Use all these routines that we have that are being totally messed up as a way back to what the real issue is. I'm never upset. I'm never afraid for the reason I think. I think I'm afraid because this routine got messed up and this routine got messed up. But I'm not afraid for the reason I think. That's lesson 5. I'm afraid because I did something silly internally, which I couldn't do in the first place. It's always that. It's nothing but that. We're offended because it's that simple as egos. But that's all it is. We're not afraid of the virus. We're not afraid of not being able to ever go out again. We're just afraid of asking Jesus for help to see he still loves us. That's really silly when you admit that out loud.
And furthermore, we're afraid because we believe we can attack. Remember, he said, you believe you acted lovelessly toward one of your brothers. There's usually a face somewhere behind our annoyance, upset, anger that's associated. And many of us can find faces behind, say, what's happening with the virus. And, if anything happens to me, it's going to be because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Or, there are often faces that we really have a grievance with. So, giving up the grievances, as the lessons just a few days ago and maybe even yesterday, my grievances are hiding the light of the world in me. And I can't, without the light, and we're the bringers of the light, then it must be restored through, here, I'll read on in this section on atonement. We're on page 30 still. Respect of the worthy to the worthy is the way he talks about healing. The recognition of this worth is reestablished by the atonement. It is obvious then that when you are afraid, you have placed yourself in a position where you need atonement. You have done something loveless, having chosen without love. I didn't make the decision with the Holy Spirit or with Jesus as my guide. I'm going through my day alone, and all I care about is that my own self-interest, my own selfishness gets dealt with, and I get what I need. So by joining with Jesus or joining with the Holy Spirit, that is undone. And by joining with my brother is extending that. This is precisely the situation for which the atonement was offered. The need for the remedy inspired its establishment. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, you will remain fearful. I need correction, I need correction, I need correction, I need correction. What's missing? However, as soon as you accept the remedy, you have abolished the fear.
Yeah.
This is how true healing occurs. So there's the place where we come up against our resistance. The steps of forgiveness, we can go as far as asking the Holy Spirit for help. But given there's no time, and given the Holy Spirit is fully endowed to correct any problems we have, and the atonement has already happened, the acceptance of the correction is now. It will never be any time other than now. So I might not see it externally. That's not the point. The point is that I must accept it, or the fear will not be relieved or released. So to think that God has to wait and take time before he's going to give us the answer, or the Holy Spirit is going to wait and give us the answer sometime down the road, that is, waiting means never.
Yes.
It's just the way of it. I often has spoken about the letter from Birmingham jail from Martin Luther King. And he said, finally, after years and years and years of people saying, wait, he said, I finally got it. Waiting means never. If I won't let myself accept the atonement now, if in my mind, I won't accept the atonement now, then likelihood I'm not going to do it tomorrow or the next day either, because this is the time. So
it's almost like Jesus tricks us. It's like the one and only problem always was we push Jesus away, we push the Holy Spirit away, we push love away, however you want to define that to yourself. I did this. I pushed Jesus away. Then rather than admit that, we get it caught up in the wheel of misfortune. And then Jesus kind of tricks us and goes, well, let me help you with this. Let me help you look and see these people the way I see them. And since pushing him away was the problem in the first place, we ask him for help to see somebody else the way he does. We've invited him back in. He didn't go anywhere. He sets us up. Here, just let me help you with this. And then you'll begin to see, you'll feel better. But it wasn't because he helped us feel better with that situation. That was the whole thing in the first place, is we pushed him out of our awareness. And now we're letting that back in dealing with whatever it is we're dealing with. And we feel better. And we think he helped us fix something. No, he just tricked us into letting him back into our awareness. That little bugger.
So the next time you're tempted to wait, remember, you could right there in that moment say, I accept the correction. I accept the correction. Doesn't have to look like anything, but the unwillingness to even say, I will accept the correction, has got to tell you that the ego is afoot. At least I find that to be true. All right. Now,
I can say something very quickly. So one thing that I found super helpful was not redefining, but rewording the word atonement as at one-ment. Like, I am at one with this situation. And I could say that phrase, like atonement was just too abstract for me, but being at one or at peace with something, I found super helpful.
yeah, I think I think more helpful is to the realization that nothing happened, because what we put out there and have believed in a sense, you're right, because we've denied that minds are joined and we're all one. So that would be true. But also the reflection of that is the realization that what I thought happened, which was the separation, never happened. So, you know, whatever works for you. If at one meant works for you, then use it. So long as it gives you the understanding that what you thought your brother did to you did not occur. You made it up. You put it there. You made it up, and you're willing to accept the correction for that. And the correction for that is you don't have that problem anymore. It's gone.
One of the ways Ken Wapnick used to describe it was at one-ment was the goal, to get back to that experience of at one-ment. But atonement was the process of taking each of those things on the wheel of misfortune and saying to ourselves with Jesus, not this, netty, not this. This is not what's robbing me of my peace. This is not what's robbing me of my peace. So the atonement process is what Lynn's saying, nothing happened with this situation. The virus isn't robbing us of my peace. The lack of my routines being totally, my routines are totally being smeared here, demolished. That's not what's robbing me of my peace. Nothing happened. This isn't what's I'm not upset for the reason I think. I'm not afraid for the reason I think. So the process of atonement is waking up to each of these things is not responsible for robbing me of my peace. And then when we get through all of them, all the ones we got to go through on that wheel, we'll realize the only thing that's left after all that is me thinking I'm me. That didn't happen either. That's the big nothing that didn't happen. Tim didn't happen. Selfhood didn't happen. At one-ment is still a done deal. So we're moving towards that one-ment by taking each of those things on the wheel of misfortune and saying, netty, not this. This did not steal my peace. This did not steal my peace. We're hard-headed. It takes us a while to get around all that stuff.
Sure does. I want to go to the last unanswered question. It really has to do with how we can become consistent in our desire for innocence and joy and our own happiness. How do we become consistent in that? If you look at, let's see, paragraph 5 on page 462. He's referring to the army of the powerless, the weak, those, the belief that we have no power to change what we see by changing how we see it, how we can shift from the unreal world to the real world. And that's what he's dealing with here. Paragraph 5, hate must have a target. In another place, he says, hate is always specifics. For that, specifics were made. Specifics meaning separated bodies, fragmentation, but let's use bodies since we're talking about brothers. Separate bodies were made so we have a place, some place to hate, some place to put our guilt and say that you're the cause of my misery. You're the one, behold me, brother, at your hands I die. You are crucifying me. You're doing this to me. Whatever, I am willing to suffer and be sick and die in order to prove you're the cause of the problem. There can be no faith in sin without an enemy. Because who that believes in sin would dare to believe he has no enemy? There's got to be an enemy. There's got to be somebody to blame for the situation that I'm in. Could he admit that no one made him powerless if he believes in sin? Again, if we believe in sin, we have to have enemies. Reason would surely bid him seek no longer what is not there to find. Yet first he must be willing to perceive a world where it is not. Perceive a world where there are no enemies. You can't do anything unless you and I, each of us, is willing to see another world that is available to us right now. So first, he must be willing to perceive a world where enemies, are not required. It is not necessary that he understand how he can see it, nor should he even try, because we don't know how to get there. Again, this is why we have a teacher. This is why we need help. For if he focuses on what he cannot understand, he will but emphasize his helplessness and let sin tell him that his enemy must be himself, the only one there is. But let him only ask himself these other questions. And these are the questions Jesus is inviting us to look at and answer in order to become consistent in our desire, because we can't make ourselves consistent. You know, it's not the kind of discipline that we would think of for A Course in Miracles. The Holy Spirit, the teacher of joy, actually has to show us this so that we become believers, that this is really the way it is. All right, so here are the questions. Do I desire a world I rule instead of one that rules me? A one where I decide what I want to see? Who is going to help me to see this? That I really want to see my brother sinless. I really want to see his innocence and know our minds are joined and this conflict can be over. Do I desire a world where I am powerful instead of helpless? No, the ego says, no, you can't do this. How dare you? Come back here and deal with all this. Do I desire a world in which I have no enemies and cannot sin? And the last question, do I want to see what I've denied because it is the truth? Now, you can read that many different ways. Do I want to see what I've denied because it's the truth? Do I want to see the real world and I've denied it because it's the truth and I don't want the truth? That's one way to see it. Do I want to see that the power is in the mind and it's always there and always available, and I've denied it because I don't want to know that the power is mine, because I'm afraid of the power, afraid of the mind? Anybody else see any other way to interpret it?
Yeah, that's so.
Tim, you're on mute.
One way of looking at it is to ask ourselves, do I really want to see the real world? Well, of course, as course students, we're always running around saying, hell yes. But if I'm not seeing the real world, then Jesus must be holding out on me. It's not because I don't want to see it. I'm blaming him. He's holding back here. No, it's just because part of me still doesn't want to see it. And worse, I'm not admitting that part of me still does not want to see it.
Right. Yeah. That sentence we read up in the top of the page, yet first he must be willing to perceive a world where it is not, a world where we have no enemies. Well, how will I, again, get rid of my guilt, you know? All right,
So
let's,
the easy part, the practical part, not so easy, but it's always going back to holding grievances. If I'm holding any grievance at all, especially the ones I don't want to look at, that I feel totally justified about, those are what, that it's not Jesus isn't holding out on me, it's me holding on to that that's keeping me from seeing you and me the way Jesus does. It's keeping me from seeing the real world. It's always a grievance. It's only a grievance. And all I need to do is take one of those grievances and work on it and let it go. And then suddenly I'll start seeing glimpses of the real world all over the place. And I won't even realize that's what's going on. It was always that was holding me back. It was only that. And so I don't have to go around saying, I want to see the real world. I want to see the real world. But what I have to do is I want to admit this grievance and I want Jesus to help me to let it go. That's what we have to do. It's always that. It's only that.
yep. Let's see. All right, we're going to have to close up here. Final few statements, and then we'll do a closing prayer. Paragraph 7. Forget not that the choice of sin or truth, these are the choices we're making, helplessness or power, is the choice of whether to attack or heal. I'm here to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent the one who sent me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. So it becomes clearer and clearer as we're paying attention to what our mind is doing, that it is always that choice. Am I going to attack or am I going to heal? My brother's calling for love. Am I going to blame him and think he is not doing the course right or whatever it is? Or am I going to offer healing? Attack or healing? It's always that choice. Whom you attack, you cannot want to heal. It's that simple. And whom you would have healed must be the one you chose to be protected from attack. And what is this but a decision as to whether to see him through the body's eyes or let him be revealed to you? That's a nice way to put it. He will be revealed to you through vision in the mind. How this decision leads to its effects is not your problem. It's a choice, seeing with the body or seeing with the help of our teacher. But what you want to see must be your choice. This is a course in cause and not effect. So learning that we are cause of what we're seeing.
Lynn.
And that we can change the way we see it so that we can forgive it and let it go. Yes.
Gigi.
Sometimes denying the power for me is that I'm afraid it won't work or what I said might not happen. So it isn't always attack or heal, but it's being afraid. I don't know how to say it, except that I'm afraid it might not work.
Well, who the you is, he's been pointing out, you don't do anything. You allow it to be done for you. So if you're doubting and fearful, it's because you think you're the one doing something and you haven't put all your faith and trust in the Holy Spirit or Jesus. You're still holding on to the idea that there is a you that is going to do this.
Good answer. Thank you.
All right, good. All right, let's just close with a prayer. The idea that there's a world out there, over and over, we learn there is no world, there is no world. And so it can't affect us because there is no world. But of course, we do believe there is a world. And I think this ending of the section, the light you bring, makes it so clear that the world is in our mind, where everything is. And if you want to heal the world, you can heal the world through the process we just went through. You can forgive the world. You can forgive the whole thing. In fact, that's kind of the goal of the course, is to get us to a place where it does come together, it does generalize, and we get it. I get it. There really is no world. Now he says you can heal. You can't heal as long as you believe there's a world and it can do something to you. You see it, but it doesn't have an effect on you. But until that point, we're still believing it can get to us. But I think this is a very helpful way of looking at the world and realizing all our brothers are one as well. And it is all in our mind and nowhere else. And we can ask to see that from the perspective of Jesus or the Holy Spirit. So put everything in the mind. So here we go. We'll take a couple of minutes of quiet.
What page is that, Lynn?
This is on page 527. 527. And it's paragraph 5. We'll sit in quiet for a couple of minutes when we complete this and allow ourselves to experience the innocence that is in our shared minds, and that this is what we want to see and experience. In you is all of heaven. Every leaf that ever falls is given life in you. Each bird that ever sang will sing again in you. And every flower that ever blossomed has saved its perfume and its loveliness for you. What aim can supersede the will of God and of his Son, that heaven be restored to him, for whom it was created as his only home? Nothing before and nothing after it. No other place, no other state nor time. Nothing beyond and nothing nearer. Nothing else in any form. This you can bring to all the world. And all the thoughts that entered it and were mistaken for a little while. How better could your own mistakes be brought to truth than by your willingness to bring the light of heaven with you as you walk beyond this world of darkness and into the light. God bless us all. Be truly helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes, you bet.
Thanks, guys.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you and what we're doing together to really change our minds about what we want to see, you know, what we really want to see. We can do this with a lot of help, but we've got the help. So,
Together we have the lamp that will dispel the darkness.
Oh, lovely.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And remember, it's a collaborative venture.
Collaborative
You can't
venture.
learn that you're one until you see your brother as
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be with you all at this time too, in this way.
Yes. Isn't it so good? Yeah, and to come and get reminded, you know, that this is where it's at. Well, we have to take care of all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.